Today, we're going to be talking about how to hire a virtual assistant. This is something that can be a complete game changer for you. I know it was for me. 2 years ago, I hired Cassell. She has been my virtual assistant for the last 2 years. She's made a tremendous impact on my business, and she's actually a part of my team. She's bought into my vision. She's a tremendous asset. I know that there's a lot of folks out there right now, especially with how busy and how hot the market is, looking for ways to create more free time, create more time in your day, offload some tasks. It's been a complete game changer. First thing is like, well, what can a VA do? What can a virtual assistant do? And I don't want you to become so attached to the word assistant. You can get a virtual recruiter. The whole idea here is outsourcing and using somebody virtually. But if we're just talking about virtual assistant, specifically your office administration work, responding to emails, transcripting certain, videos maybe that you're doing, data entry and spreadsheets. They can do appointment setting for you. They can manage your calendar. They can, do your SEO. They can help you with your blogging. They can do graphic design. They can do photo editing for mine specifically. Helps me run my podcast, helps me run my YouTube channel, creates all my design work, helps me manage my Facebook group. They can help you with social media. They can help you with other specific tasks for your recruiting business. Lots of different things that a virtual assistant can do for you. Now, the next thing is like, when should you consider actually hiring a virtual assistant? And I think this is a key one, because a lot of times we kind of sit and try to stay safe sometimes with our business, depending on where we're at. And, it's good to actually get somebody on your team and to support you sooner rather than later. The first indicator of when you should hire a virtual assistant is when you just feel overwhelmed, when you feel like you're overloaded with work. You can't keep up with your day job, so to speak. When you have a bunch of kind of administrative tasks that just keep piling up and are affecting your day job. If you're looking to create more free time for yourself and more productivity, that's going to be, a good indicator. I think one of the things too is like, if you're ready to, you need to add somebody, but maybe the revenue's not there in your business yet to bring on a full-time employee into your office, that's when a virtual assistant really can kind of come into play. And I know that's kind of like a lot of us get into that tweener stage, right? Where we're ready to grow. We may not have the exact revenue that we want yet, but we also know we need to, make steps to move forward. That's when a great time to hire your virtual assistant. If you feel yourself overwhelmed, stressed out, from your business, good time to hire a virtual assistant. And then the other thing is like, one of the things you really want to look at is like, if there's something outside of your wheelhouse, outside of your skill set, bring in a virtual assistant to help you with that. So going back into me, for example, I am not a designer, not in any way, shape, or form, not something I'm strong at. If I were going to go design something myself, I'd open up Canva. I would do the very most basic job. It'd be a terrible looking thing where, and it also takes a lot of mental energy for me to go design something. So that's where my virtual assistant comes into play, very heavy for me. So if you're just looking at like, what are the actual benefits of having a virtual assistant? Well, first, it's, rather than having a full-time employee that's in your office, you get reduced labor costs when somebody's virtual. You don't have to do workers' comp. The onboarding processes are left different. You don't have to worry about sick and holiday pay. Benefits don't have to necessarily be out there. And a lot of times you're going to be able to get somebody at a better price point when they're a virtual assistant, right? Next thing is, the other benefits would be like increasing your productivity, right? Having the virtual assistant take on the tasks that you don't want to do, the tasks that you aren't strong at, so you can really focus on those revenue generating tasks. One of the biggest benefits to me is it creates more freedom for me, more freedom for my business. Knowing that somebody else is going to be doing other parts of my business while I'm, working on other parts of my business or spending time with my family. And then I think it really reduces the risk when you're trying to scale, right? And again, it goes back into like that tweener spot. Maybe you're not really ready to hire a full-time employee yet. The last thing you want to do is hire a full-time employee, go through the process of setting up all the, workers' comp, benefits and things like that. And then they onboard, and then your business, takes a dip and you can't handle it for whatever reason, right? So it's usually a little bit easier to take that next step with a virtual assistant. All right. So, now let's talk about the how. How do we go about, hiring a virtual assistant? Well, I think the first thing that I want to recommend to you is really getting your mindset right around this. One of the common mistakes I think people make is they don't take it as serious as they would a normal hire because it's a virtual assistant. Maybe you're not paying them as much as what you think. So we don't take it seriously, and usually that's going to, lead to a bad experience. So really view this as like any other employee in your business. Take this seriously, get your mindset right. And the more serious you take that, then the more serious they're going to take it. Once we have our mindset dialed in, then it's a matter of really, what are they going to do for you? So the next step would actually just be writing a list of all of the things. Well, usually what I recommend is write down a list of all the things that you don't like to do. Second, write down the list of all the things that that you don't consider to be a strength of yours. And those will be some of the first things that you actually start to, delegate. And once you have that list, now you really want to kind of take the time to write it in more of a formal, job description, just like you would for your clients or just like you would for anybody that you're recruiting for. Take the time to really write out a quality job description that's, going to give all the, requirements for the job, that's going to get a description of the position, and what their day is going to look like. But that's going to really make sure that you're getting a quality candidate pool. Okay. Now going into the candidate pool, depending on where you go, I think you're going to find that your challenge is not getting applicants. It's how do you narrow down the applicant, right? So as you write your job description, you might consider creating a small task for them to take, because what you'll find is a lot of them won't take action on that little task that you've given them. And then you can eliminate them from your talent pool, because usually a virtual assistant needs to be good at taking direction. And so right in your job description, if you give them a little something to do as they, submit their resume, if you give them a little additional task, you'll find that probably 90 to 95% of your applicants won't do that. Boom, you've already narrowed your talent pool down to 5 or 10, 5 or 10% of the people. So you're not going to be short on applicants. You're going to have a lot of applicants, right? So write that proper job description, get that dialed in. Next thing you want to do is go to either like a freelance job board, a virtual assistant website, or the other option is like actually working with a virtual assistant agency. My advice, my preference would be to skip out on the virtual agency and go try to hire these people directly, whether you're using a site like Freelancer or Upwork or even Fiverr. You can find virtual assistants that way, right? Now you can really do this and outsource certain things. You can outsource just projects, right? So let's say you're rewriting your contract for your business and you want somebody to make it pretty and put your logos and stuff on there. Cool. Well, you can just hire that person for just that project, or you can hire them full-time or part-time, but where they're actually part of your team and you have a bunch of recurring tasks for them. So the job boards, the reason I kind of tend to stay away from the agencies, one, because they're going to, just like all of us here that have contracting staffing, you're going to deal with their markup. You're going to pay a little bit more. Two, this one might seem weird, but there are a lot of holidays in a lot of places where you might find some of these virtual assistants overseas. And when you're working through an agency, all of those holidays, you're going to be, having to, the people aren't going to work for you on those holidays. And it's not to say to create a bad work environment where people don't have freedom. But, my experience is when I work with somebody that's direct, there's far less holidays that they're trying to take off. There's far less holidays where they actually really want to work, but their employment agency is forcing them not to work for obvious reasons of bonus time and things like that. So, the other thing, that's the markup. That's the reason around, kind of some of the pay. I think the other thing too is in my experience, again, when I've worked through an agency, I didn't really get what I thought. I didn't get somebody who was going to be fully managed or kind of, I guess essentially that I didn't think the management was really great and they don't do the training. So I think that you're better off actually creating your own training system, having your own management system for the individual, and then dealing with them directly is obviously going to save you more money on the overhead side of things there. The next thing is once you post the job and you've kind of vetted out, the candidates that you want to interview, I'd recommend at least interviewing 3 candidates. I think there's some key questions that you're going to want to ask in this interview. First is, what is the time zone they're going to be working in, especially if you're finding somebody that's overseas. Is it important for you that they work the same hours as you? Are they going to be able to do that? Right. For example, my VA is based in the Philippines. when she, I would basically go to bed, she would have tasks, I'd wake up, those tasks would be done. It wasn't important for me necessarily for her to be working with me in my day job, but that may be different for some of you based off of what your needs are. So you're going to want to have clarity on that once you, kind of go in, is what hours you want them to work. That's I think a key question. The other thing is are they working for another company or not? Right. And it's not necessarily right or wrong, but I think you want to know. So you understand if their time's being split between you and another business or not. The other thing that I think is cool is we're not dealing with a lot of normal labor laws here. So you have the ability to kind of see for my case, for example, when I was doing social media, I was able to ask for examples of things that they've already done. Look at some of their work that's already been out there. And then, I usually like to ask, what they're usually used to using in terms of a management tool, how they usually go about, turning in their time, what their expectations are, from me. And then, just any other general interview questions about, qualifying them for the tasks and requirements that you're going to be having them, execute on. So now once you kind of vet the three, or you interview the three, I think there's a really cool opportunity here. And that is you can actually test some people out, right? So let's say you interview 5 and you narrow it down to 2. Well, you can actually then, what I did is hire 2 people in the same week, give them the same exact task, and then see how they work. And actually, to make it a win for them, what I did is I just paid them up front for the work. And, I paid them up front for the work, said, hey, do XYZ task for me here. And then from there, I was able to see, first and foremost, the quality of their work. But second, I think just as important is, do I like working with this individual? Can I see myself working with this individual on a regular basis? Again, it's not something you can do when you're hiring a full-time employee. You can't test them out, right? And this is one of the main advantages of a virtual assistant is your ability to actually test them out and see, if you like working with them and vice versa, if they like working with you. So that's actually really kind of the basic foundation of that process. This is a process I've used for several times. It's a process I've taught a lot of my clients on, but again, just to kind of recap, it's like making sure you're taking that mindset and getting that dialed in, taking this whole process seriously, making sure you're writing down your tasks, writing a very, solid job description, giving them a little task to do so you can eliminate some of the applicants. Post that onto, whatever job board or virtual assistant community out there, or if you're more comfortable, hiring a virtual assistant agency, you can go directly through them. Interview, at least 3 candidates, try out a couple of those candidates. And the last point is once you hire them, then I really suggest that you get them bought into your vision. This kind of goes back into the first point of taking it seriously. My virtual assistant's been with me for 2 years now. I can see her being with me in the foreseeable future because, she's a part of my team. She knows exactly what my goals are. She knows what my vision is. She knows where she fits into that vision. And the more we treat, a virtual assistant as a true, member of our team, the more we're going to get out of them. And I think one of the things that I pride myself most on with my virtual assistant is that she's happy. She enjoys the work that we're doing. She knows where she fits in. She's proactively doing things on her own to, help us reach that mission. And so I think that's, can't be overstated enough is getting them to buy into your vision. One of the exercises I use, if you haven't read the book Traction, and looked into the EOS operating system, it's incredible. It's an incredible way to not only share with, virtual assistants, but anybody that's coming into your organization. So you can share out your clear vision and your plan for them. So just to give you some other examples outside of myself, some of my clients will actually use them to go through all their Zoom info data, input that data, and then they have a whole nother set of, virtual assistants that are just doing their actual cold calling for them, doing appointment setting for them. And if you guys have heard me for a while, I'm not a big proponent of you personally cold calling because it's a huge time sink. Especially on the client development side. On the candidate side, I think it's an whatever it takes type of a thing. But on the client development side, you might have somebody else out there, dialing and doing all that grunt work for you. So again, that's where it kind of comes back into play is what do you like to do? What do you want off of your plate? And, create yourself an ideal business. So those are the tips that I have for you guys today. That's how I'd recommend that you go about hiring a virtual assistant. Keep an eye out. I'm going to come out with some more formal trainings. Like I said, if that's something you're interested in, drop it in, and I'll make sure that I will get that training over to you once we go live with it. And if anything else comes up after this video, feel free to drop the questions and I'll answer it after. But that's all I have for you guys today. This is Donnie. We'll see you in the next training. Thank you guys for being here.